Your achievements in cycling make you one of Scotland's sporting greats, and you grew up here in Glasgow. How does it feel to be back?
I'm amazed it's actually a lovely sunny day, but I've come prepared for all eventualities of Scottish weather. But yeah, it's really nice to be back on such a kind of glorious, peaceful day.
You were Robert Millar, and you won that famous polka dot jersey back in 1984. Triumphant moments, but you've spoken many times about feeling uncomfortable in your skin from the age of round about 5. Mm-hmm. Can you talk us through what it was like competing when you felt like that?
Well, there would be some days where it would be difficult, where I'd have a lot of dysphoria, but mostly because you're in that kind of competition world, you can bury it, and you have to remove all kind of emotions from your life. So I tended to be quite insular, just to deal with things like that. So I put on my kind of competition face and turn into this thing, this beast, almost, and just kind of try and block it all out. But some days would be really difficult.
You competed as a man, as Robert Millar. Do you think trans athletes should be allowed to compete in their chosen sex?
Yes, because if we look at what history tells us, the number of trans athletes are, you can count them in one hand, and that's in the billions of people that are on this earth, and they never win anything. So now I've started to say to people, remind me of what the 100-metre record is by the trans person, and there isn't one.
Times have changed so much.
So, the physical and kind of mental effects of transition, you're never going to be a top athlete, and the chances of it happening are the same as it is for the general public. It's one in millions, but there are not millions and millions of us.
What would you say to people who would say, though, it's not fair? That wouldn't be a fair competition.
I'd say to them, well, show me where it's not fair. Show me where that's happened, that a trans athlete has won an event, an elite event. So if there's been something, there's been tens of thousands of elite athletes at the Olympics since they've been allowed to compete, and there's been 3 trans athletes in that 25 years or so, and they didn't win anything. They won. I think one of them came last. And then the last 2, they were nowhere. They're just not competitive.
So are you saying trans athletes should be allowed to compete, but they should have an expectation that they're unlikely to win?
Oh, you're very unlikely to win. You're very unlikely to be competitive at elite level. Because people don't realise that the level of female sport, it's not that. It's as difficult for a woman to win in women's athletics and women's sport than it is for men. So it's slightly slower in most things, but that doesn't mean it's less difficult. It's not easy things to deal with.
So would you like to see more trans athletes?
I don't think there are any. It's so rare. I've been up in Scotland this weekend, and I don't think I've seen another trans person. So people going about, there's a big debate about whether we should be access to, toilets and showers and things like that. And the whole time that, I've transitioned and I've been transitioning, I've never met another trans person in a shower or in a public bathroom or anything. And that's in 25 years. And you would think that I would, recognise somebody else. So it's just not an issue. It's just become this kind of thing that I think allows the political system to kind of deviate from looking at what they're really doing.
You have touched on it there. There is a debate around toilets, for instance. The gender recognition bill, what are your thoughts around that?
I don't know why they're fiddling with it. So there's a number of countries which, so in Scotland they voted for self-ID. The current system, is basically self-ID as it is, but you need a medical person to kind of agree with you that you've got dysphoria. I don't know why they fiddled with it. It was kind of working well enough as it was. So there's no kind of real issues with it.
Do you think they should have just left it?
They should have just left it as it is, or let the self-ID thing come through, because you go to other countries. So lots of Scottish people go to Spain on holiday. They have self-ID there. and it's not a big deal. And so this weekend, there've been a number of people from Europe at that Braveheart ride that I was at, and you know, they come from countries where they don't have, it isn't an issue, it's not a thing.
You talk about like the passage of time, and as you were competing, it just wasn't an option for you to consider it. If more people were talking about the trans issue at the time when you were competing, would you have considered it then, or do you think you were so focused on being?
No, I was too deep into my career to. I think, you know, if I was a young person nowadays, I'd be that teenager who was transitioning at the age of 13, 14. So I would be the person kind of affected by the whole puberty blockers kind of debate and not being able to access that medication. So I look at it and I think, you know, what kind of life are they going to have if they're going to have to go through a stage in their life which they don't really want to? That would be me, and I think that's why I kind of speak out about it now and again. Is, you know, we're interrupting somebody's life when you know, it's their choice. You know, it's what they need to do, and I don't think it should be the Prime Minister's kind of main focus for 15, 20 minutes in Parliament. It's just a waste of their energy.
Do you think if that had been around at the time when you were younger, do you think your life would have taken a very different path? You've been incredibly successful, so do you think?
I would. I've been asked this before. Would have, if given the information, would I have transitioned when I was a teenager? Yes. So I wouldn't have been Robert Millar, the cyclist. I would have been Pippa, the whatever I decided I was going to do.
And we wouldn't have had that sporting
and
athlete.
You wouldn't have had a polka dot jersey and coming back to Scotland. So, you know, it kind of shows you where you are individually, that, yeah, being successful in a career isn't everything to your own happiness.
I think what strikes me is you've obviously been very driven, that you're so focused on your cycling. It's almost like, is it fair to say you decompartmentalised? You've focused on this and then your gender.
Yeah, so two people. Two totally different worlds.
And talking about two people, there's this beautiful mural of you in Lennoxtown portraying you as Pippa and as Robert. What's that like, looking at that?
It's quite strange because, you know, I come back here and I see the Billy Connolly murals in central Glasgow, and I think, well, I've got one of them, but it's out in Lennoxtown. That's really strange because at the time you don't kind of realise the impact you have on the public. You know, you see them at the side of the road and they shout your name and that. But yeah, it's really strange, and it's really nice that somebody's, you know, they've taken the effort to do that, and it gives people, you know, hopefully it motivates them to do better than I did.
What are your thoughts on the current crop of Scottish cyclists, in particular Oscar Onley?
I hope he does. So he's currently ranked number 9 in the world. And when you think for Scotland, how many athletes do we have that are in the top 10 in the world? So that's roughly where I got as good as I got. I've been in the top 10 now and again. And I just hope he does better, you know, because it's been so long since we've seen Scottish faces at the front of bike races, you know, the biggest bike races like the Tour de France. And it would be great if he does better than me. I really hope he does. And then those younger guys that we see coming now, it gives them something to aim for. You need a target.
Inspiration.
Yeah, you need that inspiration. So you look at history and what people from your, you know, where you're from, your background, and what's the best they've done. And then you think, well, I don't see any reason why I can't do that.
You've also written a book, Pippa. Why was it important for you to get your thoughts down on paper for people to read? Did you feel you needed to get your story across and for people to understand?
From working in the media, it's all about controlling what's said about me. So when David Walsh, who's the main sports writer for the Times, came to me with the idea of doing a few Tour de France's with him and kind of making it into this travel log thing, but incorporating parts of my life, I thought, yeah, that would be a really good idea, but I didn't realise that to revisit some of those situations was going to be so traumatic personally. So the competition stuff is quite easy to deal with, but revisiting my past kind of personal situations where, as in everybody, your life goes wrong for a while, Yeah, those were quite traumatic.
Pippa, thank you for talking to us on Scotland Tonight.
Thank you.